Before we get going with the show, the Hawai'i Radio Hour wants to acknowledge an error and issue an apology. In our excitement and efforts to launch this new show, we got ahead of ourselves by including an iconic image of a respected and beloved Hawaiian legend. Auntie Leimomi Mo'ukini Lum is a well-known leader in our community who has worked tirelessly for the preservation of many of the wahipana of Kohala and Hawaii. The intention was to honor her by including her in our logo, as we feel that she perfectly embodies someone whose contributions have made Hawaii what it is today. We should not have done so without first receiving express permission from her or her ohana. E kala mai.
Aloha mai kākou from Waimea on the island of Hawaii. You're listening to the Hawai'i Radio Hour. I'm Mileka Lincoln, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Naka Nathaniel.
Aloha mai kākou. Such a pleasure to be with you here today.
Absolutely another gorgeous day here in Waimea. We certainly hope wherever you're joining in to listen to us, you're experiencing a glorious day as well. Today, we're going to hear Ike Kupuna about a legendary pahu maker and the process he follows to ensure full alignment from initial tree selection to final style.
Our musical performance this week features the ukulele mastery of Brittni Paiva.
And we'll finish with a story from Joan Namkung about weaving here in Waimea.
News, Ike Kupuna, Mele, Mo'olelo, and more.
All on today's episode of the Hawai'i Radio Hour.
But first, the news. Before we get going with the show, the Hawai'i Radio Hour wants to acknowledge an error and issue an apology. In our excitement and efforts to launch this new show, we got ahead of ourselves by including an iconic image of a respected and beloved Hawaiian legend. Auntie Leimomi Mo'ukini Lum is a well-known leader in our community who has worked tirelessly for the preservation of many of the wahipana of Kohala and Hawaii. The intention was to honor her by including her in our logo, as we feel that she perfectly embodies someone whose contributions have made Hawaii what it is today. We should not have done so without first receiving express permission from her or her ohana. E kala mai.
Aloha from Waimea. I'm Mileka Lincoln, and I'm here with my co-host, Naka Nathaniel.
We are so glad to have you tuning in and listening to us today.
Hopefully you're where you want to be or almost there.
Yeah, I hope no one is stuck in traffic right now. Although a lot of us have been stuck in traffic trying to see the amazing show Tutupele has been putting on this year. Mileka, I know you're super busy, but have you gotten a chance to get over to Kilauea at all?
I have not made it back on that side yet, but I know it's been quite the show for those who have had the opportunity to check out the eruptions. Again, there's been a start, stop quite a bit, but you can always count on Tutupele just arriving on her time, in her manner, in her way, just holding a lot of space for all of the community out there, because I do understand that it actually has had quite an impact on people's abilities to move around and get around. No different than any other time. It's just the constant stalls and starts and spurts and slows that has led to a little bit of a headache for folks out there traffic-wise, huh?
Yeah. My sister lives over in the Volcano Golf Course neighborhood. They can be in the golf course and they can actually see 1,000-foot fountains for 8, maybe 10 hours at most. And then all of a sudden, quiet. So many people that have been rushing over there only to run into traffic and then get stuck and have the eruption end, and then they have to come back having missed out on Tutupele.
Yeah, I mean, what's really lovely about the experience this time around is that all of the activity at this point has been contained within the national park. This is one of those times where I think it really is just very special for everyone instead of being bittersweet, as it has been in the past. And so hopefully, no matter how many times you have to turn around and go back, you witness some of the most extraordinary displays of the magic of this place that we are lucky enough to call home and that we have a major responsibility in Kuleana to take care of.
That's so true. So my sister did offer one pro tip. Next time we come from Waimea, it says go around Na'alehu side. And
Kolole, yeah. Ka'ue is the way to go anytime, every day. Sorry.
Sorry to get everyone
Pro
else
tip
trapped.
for sure, but also local tip. Yes.
Well, mahalo for listening to the Hawai'i Radio Hour.
We'll be right back. Coming up in the show, our Ike Kupuna segment with Uncle Keone Tiraldi.
And wherever I go to, no matter if I drive from here to Kalapana, from here to Kawaanakoa, all of those places. When the people see me or look at me, I'm like, hey, that's Keone. Gee, it's been 20 years I never see him. Yeah? And I still work in the same traditional ways. Back. And every place where I travel to, I always get coconut stamp, one drum half finished or 3/4 ways finished in my car.
The Hawai'i Radio Hour has been made possible with the incredibly generous kāko'o of the Richard Smart Fund.
The Richard Smart Fund supports healthcare, education, and charities in the Waimea area of Hawaii Island.
To learn more, please visit hawaiicommunityfoundation.org. Today, we want to take a closer look at one of our most precious resources, water. Eo lavai, water is life, and vaivai actually translates to water, meaning rich.
There's a community in South Kohala where water is exorbitantly expensive.
Yeah, as you drive up the Okonipule Highway past Kauai, you'll find Kailapa, a Hawaiian homestead neighborhood in one of the driest places in Hawaii.
Homes dot the usually dry slope of Kohala Mountain. There are almost 200 ohana who call this community home.
That's right, including some of my own. Kailapa has some of the most amazing views up and down the Kona Kohala coastline, especially at sunset.
However, residents of Kailapa have faced water scarcity and high water costs since the development of the community in the 1990s. When it was established as a Department of Hawaiian Homelands, DHHL, homestead.
Kailapa families spend approximately 6 times the Hawaii County average on their water bills. That's way more than the folks in a neighboring community just across the street. And prices are set to increase by 400% by 2030.
Kaylee Ethone wrote a long-form article for Flux magazine last year about Kailapa.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time researching the backstory of Kailapa, and he joins us today to explain more about this very critical water issue. Aloha, Kaylee.
Aloha.
Why are they paying so much for their water?
To understand why the Native Hawaiians in the Kailapa community are paying so much, you kind of have to zoom out a little bit. So first of all, they're not on county water system. They're on their own private water system. And so when you have a private water system, you can't really spread the cost of delivering water to homes across many communities.
Actually, there's gulches on both sides.
That's right, yeah. So Honakoa Gulch, just to the south of Kailapa community, is a pretty big, wide, massive gulch. And the county water system that gets its water from Waimea, it goes down Kauai Hill, through Kauai, and stops short just before Honakoa.
And the county has looked at actually bringing the water across the gulch, right?
Department of Hawaiian Homelands did do a study in 2015 to see how much money it would cost to bring the water line about a mile or so across that gulch and to the Hawaiian Homes community. And it would be, in 2015, up to about $30 million, so probably more today.
Yeah, we talked to a couple people over there, including Sherry Ann Drumondo, and here's what she had to say.
Compared to a county person, our water bill can range anywhere from $300 to $500. We don't drink it. We bring in our own water from water companies. But you do everything like everyone else normally does with water. It's just a little harder and more chemically.
Sherry Ann, she says that they don't even wash their trucks with the water because it's so hard.
Leeward Kohala is one of the driest places in the state of Hawaii. So any water that's coming out of the ground on that side of the island is coming from a well. And that's exactly where the Kailapa water comes from. It comes from a well in the neighboring community to the north called Kohala Ranch. And when Kohala Ranch was exploring how to get water to their more upscale community, they drilled for wells and they managed to hit fresh water. And that's the water that is being delivered and shared with the Kailapa community.
They also tried to drill in Kailapa too, right?
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate, kind of unlucky story because the same consultants and contractors that drilled in Kohala Ranch were hired to explore water options for the Kailapa community. And they drilled and they didn't get so lucky and they didn't hit fresh water. So there are 2 well systems in the Kailapa community. One of them, according to a report, says it'll never be potable. The other one is just on the edge of drinkability, essentially.
Right. So there's extra salt water. What is there in the water that makes it unconsumable?
Usually in Hawaii, if you're drilling a well and you want to hit fresh water, you have to drill to sea level. And that's because it rains in the mountains. The rain percolates through lava and then rests on top of the kind of salt seawater lens that's just around sea level. So when you drill down to sea level, you can hit that lens, but you're not always lucky on how fresh or salty that water is. There's this process called intrusion, and when salt water is intruding too much into these wells at sea level, you'll get extra salty water, and when their intrusion isn't so much, you'll get more fresh water. So that'll even fluctuate with tides or how much water is available in that watershed as well.
Not only are they paying extra, but then they're also having to buy water on top of it just so they can cook.
I'm really lucky. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be so conscious of my water use all of the time, right? I think most of us turn on the tap, we expect the water to be there and we expect to drink it and we expect to not pay a crazy amount of money for it. And so I suppose if you were to live in the Kailapa community for any amount of time and you would become hyper aware and conscious that every time you turn that faucet, just how much money you're spending to use that water. So yeah, it's heartbreaking.
The water bills have not been this high since the 1990s. How did this all change?
Kailapa actually was explored for development initially in the 1960s. There wasn't the Akonepule Highway on the Makai side of Leeward Kohala. You had to access the community through the mountain road. And when they explored to build the Kailapa community at that time, they looked into getting ditch water from higher up on the mountain and piping that down into the community. And it proved to be, the ditch just didn't have a consistent enough flow from the Kahena ditch, it's called. And so they stopped exploring building a community there. And then it wasn't until the 1990s that DHHL took a look at that area again. The Ahupua'a is called Kauai 2. So they looked at it again, created a 10-year master plan and said, maybe we can try this again because there is a highway to the south. Maybe we can drill and hit fresh water and maybe we can make this happen. So they built the community a little bit preemptively, I guess, in my opinion, because they built the community and built all the lots, about 195 lots, before they really had a solid water option. From Kauai to the summit of Kohala is one of the steepest rain gradients on the planet Earth. It's a desert at Kauai, but the summit of Kohala has something like 175 inches of rain a year. It's really lush. Like as the Alala flies, Kailapa is about 7 miles from the summit of Kohala. But the water that stops short a mile of Kailapa community travels about 12 miles. So it goes into Waimea from the summit of area of Kohala into Waimea, down Kauai Hill to some of the resorts, and then across the Kailapa, even though that's like a longer distance to where it actually comes from. So all this like diversion of water, like there's this element of, I know I'm not a scientist, but element of like, if you just let water flow how it should, then maybe this wouldn't be a problem that we're talking about right now. Honokua Gulch is huge. It's this huge erosional gulch, but it's dry and rocks are falling into it and goats are walking all over it. But at some point looking at a huge gulch that it was like careening with water. So all this stuff that we've been doing to water to move it here and move it there and get it stopped short of the gulch, but we can't get it across the gulch. It's like, why? What? We're creating so much chaos for no reason, it seems,
Right. Yeah.
and
So we talked to Brandy Oy, whose father was one of their very first to receive an allotment inside the homestead. And here's what Brandy had to say.
Nobody wanted Kauai High. The surveyor even told my dad, he said, yeah, I surveyed all the property. He said, oh, this is all rubbish. It was his town. I mean, when he brought me out here, he's like, oh, look, check this out. I was like, oh, this is awful. There's no way I am living here. Yeah. I was like, you're crazy. Yeah. And I just remember that. Anyway, needless to say, eventually they did the grading for the roads and whatnot.
yeah, when I started exploring and interviewing people like Brandy for this article, I had in my mind that I might find like a bad guy and someone that I could peg this on and say, hey, if we just hold this person accountable, we'll be able to solve this problem. But unfortunately, as many times we find in life, things are kind of not so black and white. So if you zoom out a ton, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, they didn't have many options of where to even put their communities. And so they had to choose 200,000 acres or so from land that wasn't even meant for homesteading because the sugar land that was being used to grow sugarcane at the time wasn't made available for any DHHL land. So that's all going to be all the best land, the most productive land, the land that has access to water. And so the rest of the 200,000 acres that we know now as DHHL land is the land that not even sugar planters at the time wanted to use. Already from the start, Kailapa was kind of doomed because it's a desert. It's not somewhere where water is easily accessible.
I mean, it's a very, very isolated place. I mean, you need to have a car.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to go back a little bit too, Naka. So like I said, the land that DHHL was forced to choose to create their communities was not the best land already, right? And then taking from that supply of land and starting to develop homes and homesteading for Hawaiians throughout the history of the DHHL program, even though according to federal law, DHHL was supposed to be funded by the state legislature, time and time again throughout history, the state of Hawaii would not appropriate necessary funds for Department of Hawaiian Homelands. In many years, they didn't give them any money whatsoever. And so then DHHL, it seems from history, felt like they were stuck in this place where they were forced to sell land or lease to non-Hawaiians so that they could generate revenue to hire people and keep the lights on. And so you have, for example, in Kailapa, you have this poor land that doesn't have easy access to water. You don't have funding to build infrastructure. But you have this wait list full of Hawaiians that cannot have access to homes. So what do you do? And it sounds like in the case of Kailapa, they went ahead and built the community. They used water from the neighboring community of Kohala Ranch. And they said, maybe we can figure this out, but at least we can provide housing for Native Hawaiians so that this wait list isn't so atrocious and long and people are being born and dying on this wait list. And so they went ahead and did that kind of with their fingers crossed. They could figure something out, but it's been about 25 years, I believe, and there still hasn't been a solution.
Right. And one of the things that ended up happening was Kohala Ranch did not supply the water for free. There was a service charge. Things changed about a decade ago, right?
So DHHL's policy when they, developed Kailapa community and then were using water from Kohala Ranch, they said, what we're going to do for our community is we're going to take the going rate for county water and we're going to just charge that to our residents. And anything extra that what we're getting charged, DHHL, we're going to take that loss. We're going to take the hit. In 2016, I think the number was $165,000 DHHL was subsidizing. And for whatever reasons, in 2018, they decided we're going to drop this. And instead of subsidizing the extra costs, we're just going to pass that on to our residents.
So the residents suddenly found themselves having to find an extra collectively $160,000.
Exactly right. So you can imagine you're paying the county rate for water. You're living in Kailapa. Yes, it's hot and isolated and X, Y, and Z, but it's manageable, right? And you have a home and you have a beautiful view. But then in 2018, all of a sudden, your rates skyrocket. And that's when I think folks started looking at their bills more carefully and looking at their water usage. And one fee that kept showing up every month on their bill was a service charge. And that was kind of just adding insult to injury, already paying this crazy price, and then a service charge on top of that for what was kind of the collective, it seemed, cry was, well, what is the service charge for?
So people have not just sat back and let this happen. They've been trying to find solutions to this problem.
Yes, of course. So the Kailapa community has a association, Kailapa Community Association. And in 2022, they went out for a grant and were awarded $49,000 to explore the research and feasibility of using those DHHA wells and perhaps creating a desalination treatment facility. And so the onus is kind of on KCA. DHHL is kind of passing the buck to them to look into what they can do about it.
Right.
Instead of taking it on themselves.
Right. People are looking at different technological, possibilities.
Yeah. So in the reports I read, I think it is a possibility. So this well that is on DHHL property that is not quite drinkable is actually just on the verge of drinkability. So it's not very salty at all. And prior to 2019, trying to turn that brackish water into fresh drinkable water would have used a lot of fossil fuels. What you have to do in reverse osmosis essentially is forcing water through a membrane, a really, really, really small membrane, stripping it down just to H2O and then adding stuff back into it to make it drinkable. That takes a lot of energy. And so to burn all this fossil fuel to do that to water, it's just expensive. But in 2019, something happened on the planet which was the cost of building a brand new renewable energy facility became cheaper than building a brand new fossil fuel power facility.
Right. And that's one of the frustrating things, from many of the residents of that community, right, is that they have a great view of the resorts that exist in South Kohala.
That's the part I think about writing this article and researching the article that hurt me the most, Naka, was like, it's talking about values. What do we value? And when it comes down to it, just in my opinion, what it seems like is that a group of Native Hawaiians living in a community, they're not going to generate profit, right? Building this water system is just going to cost money. But a hotel might bring profit. A fancy upscale neighborhood might generate tax revenue. No one said this to me, but it's kind of like reading between the lines. It's like, oh, so what do we care about? What do we value? And the frustrating thing is that the Department of Hawaiian Homelands has, I think, just about 2 parcels that are completely intact ahupua'a. Kailapa is part of Kauai too, and that's an intact ahupua'a.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think it means, to have that intact ahupua'a?
I think it means that there's an opportunity there to show what we value and what we can value. Is it the acclamation of material wealth? Is it generating money and wealth and revenue? What do we value as people who live in these islands in the middle of the ocean? Could we potentially create an ahupua'a that feeds people, that houses people, that serves the greatest good of the community, that creates a life that we don't have to drive far in our cars to use because you're in the ahupua'a, educating your youth, growing food, playing in the ocean? Is that what we value, a life like that? Or do we want to just focus on projects that generate revenue for who or what, And as long as we let the Native Hawaiians of Kalapa community pay a crazy amount of money for water, we're signaling to the world that we don't value Native Hawaiian ingenuity, Native Hawaiian resilience, Native Hawaiian thoughts, ways of life. And that breaks my heart. The Native Hawaiians are saying, hey, you know what? Actually, the best stewards of this pai'aina in the history of this pai'aina were Native Hawaiians. And all we want is to show that we can steward this ahupua'a and do it again. The solutions are here. It's with us. It's the only system, in fact, that ever worked. Sugarcane's gone, right? We can see what tourism is doing to our economy. So why don't we let Native Hawaiians experiment just like we let the hotels experiment, sugarcane experiment? Why aren't we letting that happen? It doesn't make sense. And we won't let it happen. We won't see it happen in Kalapa until we get water. I mean, step 1, get water. Step 2, go from there.
Yeah. It's an absolutely remarkable article that you wrote in Flux magazine. People, if they would like to read it, and it's well worth the read, they can look up your name, K-L-E, Thone, or they can also type in Kailapa and Flux, F-L-U-X. All right, mahalo. Ahuiho.
Ahuiho.
The Hawai'i Radio Hour, more importantly, the Hawai'i Storytellers Fellowship, is supported by Kamehameha Schools.
Kamehameha Schools has provided funding for the Hawai'i Storytellers Fellowship, a program that helps train, coach, and nurture Hawaii's next generation of trusted storytellers.
To learn more about Kamehameha Schools, please visit ksbe.edu.
Later in the show, we'll be hearing Brittni Paiva on the ukulele playing Heartbeat Melody.
We'll be right back after this break. You're listening to the Hawai'i Radio Hour.
Welcome back to the Hawai'i Radio Hour. This week's Ike Kupuna segment features a wood carving legend from Keaukaha, Uncle Keone Turaldi. My co-host, Colby Akamu Moser, is here to tell us about Uncle Keone.
Yes, Uncle Keone is an absolute legend. He is loved and adored by so many in Hawaii.
Uncle Keone can be seen during the summer down at Hilo One at the Bayfront Park at the regatta races. In the past, he's been out there teaching our keiki how to make mea ai by pounding out steamed kalo on poi boards.
Yes, he is a kumu, a coach, and a world-renowned Hawaiian artist of Na Mea Hawaii. We featured him in our documentary film Hometown Legends, and here is an extended cut of some of our conversation with him about what fuels his passion after decades and making thousands of pahu drums.
So, Uncle, you taught yourself how to make drums, or did somebody teach you?
Well, my younger days I got taught, back maybe when I was like 14, 15 years old. There was when I was living in Kaneohe, and my older Hanai brothers got into the hula halau. So there was all drummers and fire dancers. Then when I got into the halau, we was part of the dramas too. And then we didn't get to learn how to make one drum. We learned how to make drums from John D. Leary because he was the expert and the pro for Hawaiian drum making, Polynesian drum making, and Polynesian show.
Just learn. Okay. How many did you make? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I never did stop, yeah, because I was making drums day and night to like 1 o'clock in the morning. I didn't have to stop a certain time because I kind of like, okay, I kind of make noise after 1 o'clock. But as far as a plane can pass by and make noise, I can make noise, yeah? So I would go up to like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, tapping, making noise, and boom, 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 boom. I don't know how much drums I made until today. I mean, sometimes I could say like 4,000. From lapaiki, kilo, to knee drum, punius, to hula drums, to ceremony drums, to different height of drums, yeah? Everything is one art piece that you make that gonna live forever and ever, yeah? Like nowadays, you can type in a computer, you get machine do the work, and people come tell you, oh yeah, I did this over here. Then when you look at that art piece, you look, is it by you, by hand, or by the machine that you type in that what you want the machine to make, yeah? Nowadays, I see people have machines like that make paddles, make earrings, make different things, yeah? But traditional ways for my work, I want to keep one chisel, hamale, one hammer, wooden hammer. But while I live in, that's how you're going to learn. And wherever I go to, no matter if I drive from here to Kalapana, from here to Honakaha, from here to Kauai, from here to Kohala, or Kona, yeah, or Kau, yeah. All of those places, when the people see me or look at me, I'm like, hey, that's Keone. Gee, it's been 20 years I never see him, yeah? And I still work in the same traditional ways. Back. And every place where I travel to, I always get coconut stump, one drum half finished or 3/4 ways finished in my car.
You know, you've spent so many years, make thousands of drums. What is one thing that the drums taught you? The process of making drum, what is one thing that whole process taught you?
Oh, the process of all these years making drums, yeah, that make me happy, yeah. Continue on the Hawaiian drum making, keeping people happy. Every hula halau, yeah, once they perform it on hula drum, all those 60 hula dancers or 30 hula dancers or 50 hula dancers, they got to dance to the pahu, the sounds, the beat of the drums. And that's what make me, give me more energy for keep up the Hawaiian drum making, because it's alive, yeah? That life, the heartbeat of the drum beat with the legs, the movements of the legs, yeah? So you watch the hula dancers, all that beat, and the tap in them, dum 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 dum. Every movements they make with their legs, every motion, same time as the beat. But just the energy alone, when hula dancers, females and kanes, yeah, keikis, dancing to the pahu drums.
How does that make you feel when you hear that sound from the drums that you created?
Ooh, boom, boom, boom. Revive the heartbeat, yeah. There's no end to it, it's forever and ever. The energy, the beauty, that never been forgotten.
Uncle, why do you think it's important for them to carry on the tradition of making either drums or any kind of Hawaiian tradition? Why do you think it's important to carry that on?
Well, it's very important now because we're getting older, yeah? And, our young time, we had the energy, boost energy. And that energy gonna last only so long, yeah? Same thing like everything else, energy, you stay in shape because this type of work, you need to be in shape. using one hammer and whacking one chisel, yeah, because that wood is hard, super hard. Hopefully, I can go another 20 more years, yeah. Hopefully, one of my students, older students, or my child, my sons, continue on this type of work, preserving this Hawaiian drum making, yeah, or Namea Hawaii making of all Hawaiian arts, not only Hawaiian drum making, but every Hawaiian piece or art piece. You know, I always tell people, we live in Hawaii, yeah. You better learn how to do something Hawaiian, yeah. Not just talk about it, yeah. Not just to do it one time, but like I said, if you can do it for 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years, then you become a master, yeah. Then you can be talking the talk.
What would be lost? If we lost this art of making, what would be lost?
If people don't do these things, yeah, you're never gonna find Hawaiian arts. You're never gonna find Hawaiian artists, yeah. Nothing Hawaiian, dead, died, fade away. I know that much artists pass away, but they won't even share with that much people. But who will carry on with their art piece, lauhala weaving, yeah, kukui nutshell making. I used to do a lot of coconut weaving. I never weaved for 3 years. I lost how to make one basket. I lost to make one coconut hat. I forgot how to weave. Like I said, if you don't do that practice, that teaching, yeah, you lose it. Maybe when we talk about ancient things like canoe making, Hawaiian drum making, the hula. It's like each family, fishing family, if you ain't gonna continue on your fishing, you're not gonna share with your grandkids or your kids or your friends' kids, yeah? If you don't do it, yeah, fishing not gonna be fishing. I always share, if you don't practice that, you don't do it, you lose it.
Mahalo piha, Uncle Keone.
And mahalo to you, Colby, for sharing this story. We'll be right back.
Coming up later in the show, Joan Namkum weaves the story in front of a live audience.
As you weave and see cloth develop and grow before your eyes, it's quite magical. And when a project is complete, there's nothing like rolling off yards of cloth, feeling the drape and softness, and seeing its luster and pattern. The best part of weaving is the endless possibilities of interlacing colors and textures. For me, weaving is like cooking, my other passion. It's how you put together various ingredients to create something delicious or beautiful.
Welcome back to the Hawai'i Radio Hour. We are so grateful you're taking the time to listen to us.
If you're in the car cruising around right now, we really appreciate you listening, especially if you're on the Kohala Mountain Road coming into town from Kapa'au or Hawaii. We've got a little music that we think will make the drive even a little bit better.
Yes, that's right. Brittni Paiva began her musical career at just 15, performing live shows across Hawaii Island. While she's best known for her mastery on the ukulele, her talent doesn't stop there. She is a classically trained pianist and also plays the bass and drums.
Brittni has won multiple Nā Hoku Hano Hano awards, and the first one was at 17 for Most Promising Artist of the Year for her debut album in 2005. Here she is playing her most recent Nā Hoku Hano Hano award winner.
Here's Brittni playing Heartbeat Melody on stage during the Ho'olaulea for the 22nd Annual Ukulele and Slack Key Guitar Festival.
All right. How many of you guys were here last year? Awesome. I have no face tape this year. I had a jaw issue last year, and we're all healthy this year, so that's a good thing. All right. Also, for the first time in quite a long time, I'm playing all new songs. All right, so starting things off, this song is one that I actually co-wrote with a friend of mine, and this song is one that I wrote for my girlfriend, and just kind of really capturing the feeling that you get when someone makes you super happy and like you're always on cloud nine. And so this song is called Heartbeat Melody. So the fun thing about these songs that I'm playing tonight, I recorded in my home studio. I played all of the instruments, mixed everything, engineered everything, and mastered it. So from top to bottom is everything that you're gonna hear. So thank you. All right, here we go, Heartbeat Melody. Thank you. Thank you so much. That song, I'm super blessed to say that it took home the Instrumental Composition of the Year award at the Hokus this year. And thank you. Being at the Hoku Awards, if you go every year, the feeling, even if you don't release music, the feeling is just like you're sitting on the edge of your seat the entire night. As soon as you hear that little jingle come on that, it's announcing that the Hokus are starting, it gives you PTSD.
If you'd like to watch the full performance of the Ukulele and Slack Key Guitar Festival, which included Jeff Peterson, Sean Parks, and Ho'opono Wong, just head over to kahilu.tv.
We will be right back with a mo'olelo about one of humanity's most ancient arts. Aloha, welcome back to the Hawai'i Radio Hour.
Here's today's last segment, a mo'olelo story shared in front of a live audience on stage at Kahilu.
Joan Namkoon is well known in Hawaii as the consummate foodie. However, she actually has a greater passion, one that she wants to share with our audience.
Here's Joan Namkoon.
About 50 years ago, I took a weaving class at Bishop Museum in Honolulu. It was on a backstrap loom, 2 rods holding several dozens of threads of even length, held taut because the rods were tied to a post at one end and around my waist at the other. The threads were of jute, a coarse kind of thick thread. A small stick or shuttle held more of that jute that went over and under the vertical threads in front of me, over and under, over and under. I thought this was pretty fun, and I ended up with a sampler of different weaving designs. Many years later, I took a class using a floor loom, where the movement of your feet determines which vertical threads go up and down so the shuttle can pass over and under the many threads in front of you. I thought this was super fun and got really hooked on weaving. In 1985, I got a loom. No small investment for a craft that I was just learning about. Weaving became a hobby, something to do with my spare time if there was any. A career in running a kitchen shop and food writing occupied my daytime hours. When I moved to Waimea almost 20 years ago, I got really serious about this craft. Maybe it was the freedom of time, the quiet of the town, the misty afternoons conducive to being indoors, the fresh, clean air, and the warmth of the community that brought on a sense of calm and creativity. Today, I'm rather obsessed with weaving, a craft that occupies most of my daytime hours. I'm a hand weaver. I weave cloth. I have several looms, big and small. The backstrap loom I learned on and used around the world today is not one of them. I weave on a floor loom, actually 2 of them, where my feet move the vertical threads in a particular order while I throw a shuttle holding the weft thread. Throw your shuttle, beat the thread in, change your feet. Throw, beat, change your feet. That's my mantra as cloth develops on the loom inch by inch. I read weaving books and magazines. I travel to attend workshops and classes. I have learned different weave structures, how to weave with animal and plant fibers and even metal, how to make velvet, how to make damask cloth. I've figured out how to incorporate beads and bling into my cloth. I've learned about color and how the interlacement of colors can sometimes create muddy, ugly cloth. I learned about different looms, how they are all basically the same, designed to hold the warp threads in perfect order, under tension, so you can weave the cloth with the weft. I have a more than ample supply of threads or yarns. Weavers build yarn stashes. We're like kids in a candy store when entering a yarn store. Colors and textures call out, and you buy threads by the thousands of yards, not knowing exactly what you're going to do with them. What do I weave? Functional items that are hopefully beautiful. Silk scarves and shawls for cool Waimea days. Sometimes fabric for clothing, upholstery, or rugs. I'm probably best known for my dish towels. Yeah, dish towels. Cotton ones that are soft and absorbent for drying dishes, pots, and pans. Cotton, linen, and silk are my favorite fibers. I like bright colors, defined lines, and shapes. And pretty soon I'm going to make something with wool. Wool from Big Island sheep, processed in Kukuihaili at the newly established Ohana Fiber Mill. And what do I do with all the stuff I weave? I have an annual sale just before Thanksgiving. I weave what I want to weave throughout the year, and if others happen to like what I weave, they can enjoy it. Weaving is a craft that requires a lot of patience and attention to detail. When you're managing several hundred fine threads for a project, each one threaded individually through an eye of a heddle, you kind of have to focus. A single thread out of place shows up in your cloth. A broken thread needs to be fixed. It's a daunting process, but I love setting up a loom and seeing all the threads parallel to each other and evenly tensioned. The weaving part, throwing a shuttle back and forth over and under the threads, gets a little bit boring for me. So I listen to books and music when I weave. I can weave 2 inches in an hour or 2 yards in an hour, depending on the project. As you weave and see cloth develop and grow before your eyes, it's quite magical. And when a project is complete, there's nothing like rolling off yards of cloth, feeling the drape and softness, and seeing its luster and pattern. The best part of weaving is the endless possibilities of interlacing colors and textures. For me, weaving is like cooking, my other passion. It's how you put together various ingredients to create something delicious or beautiful. Weaving's kind of a solitary craft. It's not like knitting or crocheting, where you can take your project in a bag and sit with friends and chat and do your craft. One of my looms is 4 feet wide by 7 feet long by 6 feet high. Kind of hard to move around. In fact, I never move it. There are smaller looms, to be sure, portable and for specific weaving purposes. Fortunately, here on the Big Island, there is a community of weavers who gather regularly to share our latest projects and learn from each other. The Big Island chapter of the Hawaii Handweavers Hui is part of a statewide organization that fosters the activities of weavers, spinners, dyers, and fiber artists through education and camaraderie. When I'm not weaving in Waimea, I'm traveling on textile tours. Places like Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Japan, Sweden, Morocco. Each of these have opened my eyes to weaving traditions that date back thousands of years. On these tours, the opportunity to interact with weavers in their homes and villages provide lots of fascinating cultural learning. And everywhere I travel, I'm on the lookout for interesting designs and patterns on floors, in windows, on doors, and in cloth that I can imitate onto my woven cloth. Spinning thread by hand from plants and animals and weaving those threads into cloth has been going on for thousands of years. It was a craft born of necessity to make clothing and household items like towels, sheets, rugs, curtains. These are things we buy today, already made without a second thought. Weaving and spinning played an important role in the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. In fact, here's a tidbit about weaving. In the early 19th century, a man by the name of Jacquard developed a loom that enables complex patterns to be woven. The patterns are recorded on punch cards. The Jacquard loom that's still used today around the world is based on a binomial system, the precursor of today's computer technology. And another bit of trivia. Next time you put on your pair of jeans, take a look at the small diagonal lines in the cloth. It's a twill pattern. It's a pattern I weave all the time, over 2, under 2. All denim is this twill pattern, fine machine-spun threads of blue and white that originated in the French city of Nimes. Sadly, hand weaving is slowly becoming a lost art. The community of weavers worldwide is not a big one, and we're getting older. We're always on the search for the next generation of weavers. I've taught many of the weavers here on the Big Island. In the last few years, I've been teaching people to weave at the Hawaii Handweavers Hui Studio in Honolulu. It brings me great joy to see that aha moment when weavers explore the interlacement of threads for the first time, when they understand how a loom works and can see the endless possibilities of weaving cloth. Sharing it with others will hopefully keep my craft alive for generations to come. I'm Joan Namkung, and I weave in Waimea.
Joan Namkung is a storyteller here at Kahilu Theater, and we plan on hearing more stories from her island home recorded on a stage in front of a live audience.
We will be right back.
Support for the Ike Kupuna and Mo'olelo portions of Hawai'i Radio Hour comes from Kate Bell and Tom Blackburn of the Deviants from the Norm.
Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible.
We'll return in just a minute. Be sure to follow us on social media at Hawai'i Radio Hour. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube. And if you'd like to re-listen to the show, you can find us by searching for Hawai'i Radio Hour on Spotify and other podcast outlets.
You know, Milaka, people say that not only can they not tell my voice apart from Colby's, which is why we haven't hosted together, but we also have a hard time being told apart in person. But here's a pro tip. If you go on social media, the easiest way to tell us apart visually is Colby is the one wearing the Emmy statuette on a gold chain around her neck.
Hey, ho'o mai kaia oe, Colby. Way to bring it home. So proud of all that you are doing to represent Hawaii through storytelling. Your incredible crew. Eat your roots. We cannot wait to see what you do next.
Yes, it was such a marvelous, marvelous accomplishment, and congratulations.
Mahalo for listening. We want to thank everyone who helped make this show possible this week. Kaylee Ethone, Brittni Paiva, Uncle Keone Teraldi, and Joan Namkung for getting in front of the microphone.
A special mahalo to our Hawaii Storytellers Fellows, Jillian Santiago and Mehealani DuPont, for their help producing this week's show. And we'd also like to welcome our newest fellow, Tati Dunhauer.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us a note or voice memo to aloha@hawaiiradiohour.com. And remember, if you'd like to re-listen to the show, you can find us by searching for Hawaii Radio Hour on Spotify and YouTube.
Here on the show, we say e ho'olohi I ko kako moku. Listen to our island home. So as we leave you, we're going to be listening to the sounds of our island. In this case, some jibber-jabbering mina birds. Jibber-jabber. Oh boy.
E ho'olohe I ko kako moku.
Hui ho
and
and aloha.
aloha.